I'm Mark the Shark, and I play entry for Disrupt Gaming. You're watching Disrupt Dominate NAL.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for the third match of the day. We just saw TSM and Space Station Gaming pull away with some beautiful wins. Sonics and TSM pull away with beautiful wins. Space Station Gaming with the upset, lost. But I'm going to be Veli, your host. Right next to me, the analyst, Jacob. I don't know what the hell he doing. And Jesse, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, Valley. We're halfway through the day. We've had some upsets so far.
I love you, Jacob.
I'm willing to see if we got any more.
Jacob, are you excited for this matchup right now? We had Oxygen here.
Well, hey, don't spoil the predictions just yet. We got to get to that in a hot second. But the thing about this game is OXG are at the top of the mountain right now, and they're on one of the hottest starts that they've ever had in the North American League. And then there's DG. Yeah, they're just doing DG things. So I am excited. I'm excited to see what this dichotomy looks like.
All right, so Jesse, taking a look at Oxygen, they have looked so much better this season. Plus, Kino and Yaga, as rookies, they've been making some crazy impact, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this team, for me, it looks like a whole new roster compared to what we saw last season. I know it's the same core, it's the same team, the same support staff. They've just added 2 new players, but it makes such a difference, right? And for me, the biggest difference is their attack. Last season, they were pretty middle attacking team. They were sort of down in that 5th or 6th best. They were about average with a 40% attacking win rate. So far in the NAL this season, they're at a 70% attacking win rate. That's the best in the league, and it's a large part due to their aggression. You know, they're making really smart plays. They're swinging when they need to. They're getting that opening pick. And it's just been fantastic to see. Obviously, some of these attacking wins have come from, Kino getting aces or whatever they might need. But I've been really impressed with the way that Oxygen have, gotten more aggressive, focused on that role, and seem like they have figured out that balance between structure and looseness that they were kind of playing around with last time. You don't want to be too loose, because if you do, you've got players running all over the place and you're going to get punished hard. But this is a team known for playing with a little bit less structure than normal, and I think when they capitalize off that and take that to their advantage without going overboard, they really do shine. So I've been super impressed with Oxygen so far in this league. They're looking like one of, if not the best team inside the NAL.
That's a big statement coming from you, and we're gonna jump off that right where you ended it. Jacob, This is the best Oxygen we have seen to the start of a season for NAL. They're looking hungry. They're looking great, actually. What are your thoughts long term for this roster? Do you think they're going to keep it up?
I'd like to think so, because OXG's mentality has kind of shifted from being a team that goes after known pro players, and it's kind of like a revolving door of people who had played in T1 North American Siege. Instead, they went for 2 rookies. They went for 2 guys who had played at Challenge League levels before, who'd played in comp but had never played at T1. So the cool part about it is it seems like they're focused a little bit more on the future rather than going for people who were known commodities or, who had land experience or whatever. They're going for Kino and Yaga, and it so far is really like showing up. Kino is top rated, top fragged in 2 straight games for OXG thus far, which is something you probably wouldn't expect from a rookie, especially someone who's playing support roles. Like, Yaga's supposed to be the one in there getting kills. That's Laxing's job. That's Fox's job. But that's what Kino's doing, and he's doing a really good job of it. So him having the performance that he has through 2 games is absolutely a massive reason for their strong start. But at the same time, Yaga also had a really good game last week, and the 2 of them in tandem, I said last week and I'll say it again here, probably one of the best duos that the North American League right now has to offer. They're so good so far.
I mean, there's an argument to be had, right? I'm taking a look at the stats from last week where they played against Mirage, and yeah, I know. Kino and Yaga on top, 10-5, 10-5. They're above players such as Laxing, Vertical, Foxay. How common is it that you see 2 complete rookies come in and dominate over the superstar highlight players that we're used to seeing week in and week out, man?
I mean, take a look at the rest of the rookies in the league. We've got 9 rookies this season. None of them, in my opinion, hold a candle to what we've been seeing out of Yaga and Kino. Maybe Benji, but even he, I don't think is really on the same level of impact that we've seen from these two players. And even, I know we're not talking about them yet, but across the aisle, there's some more they're not rookies, but more player additions that just haven't really worked out. And so the fact that two young players can work into a roster so well, so quickly, it's mind-boggling. It's not something we see very often.
I love it. It's beautiful to see. But let's talk about the other team that's challenging Oxygen. It's going to be Disrupt Gaming, a team that haven't quite caught their stride yet. They look great. They have all the individual talent in the world. Shuttle, J9O, Retro, Mark, and Iconic, their latest pickup. And speaking of him, he's replaced NJR, who's currently on who's on Dark Zero. He was their leading player last season. And Jacob, I mean, all of this talent in the road, and we still see the same issues from last season. Do you think that it's time that they start to correct those and show the road what they're really made of?
Yeah, they're going to need to, not just because they're down in a hole with 2 straight losses, but because right now they're kind of the bigger disappointment in the North American League because of the amount of like star-studded like power that this team has, yet they have the record that they do and some of the players have the stats that they do. Iconic, more especially, a .68 rating through the past 2 games, and he's playing Zof, he's playing Goyo, he's 1-7 on entry, and Mark also has a 1-5 record on entry. There are a lot of very good individual players on this team. The problem is they're relying on those individual plays to help them scrape rounds by their opponents. And their loss to the Sonics, that was a big deal. And their loss to Space Station, that was also kind of the same case. We're looking for something from this team that suggests that they're playing together. They're playing more of it as a cohesive unit. Right now, they're not really showing that, and it's obvious not just in individual player stats, but the fact that you have guys like Iconic who are supposed to be leading the charge, or that was the expectation that was kind of put on his shoulders, and he's near the bottom of the team from a stats point of view. It's not the greatest outlook, and they need to find a way to correct it fast.
Now, taking a look at what happened with Disrupt Gaming last week, yes, they weren't able to pull through. But this team, I mean, they have all the potential in the world. But Jesse, I think it starts with how they attack. They seem to let roamers roam and they're focused on the side, and they're creating shortcuts on their way to victory. And I don't believe that that's the right thing to do at the moment.
I gotta be honest, I don't like the way that Disrupt attack, at least in their first 2 weeks that we saw in Clubhouse, have been really disappointing for me. A lot of that comes down to the opening picks, and Jacob read out the stats for you already. Iconic and Mark are 2 players who last year in Stage 2 of the NAL both were in the top 10 of opening kill stats, right? They both were in the top 10 of the best players to get that opening pick. Disrupt Gaming was known as the team that would always get that opening pick. They were best in the league in Stage 2, so you've got a core that's very good at getting the opening pick. You've got 2 new rookies, or not rookies, but 2 new players that are very good at the opening pick. You put them together, and in 11 attacking rounds, Mark and Iconic have died first 9 times. They can't get it together, and I don't know if it's a synergy problem. I imagine it's not just that they've all, lost, they've dropped all their individual skill. I know that these are good players. I've seen them, get this opening pick and play well on other teams, but it's not clicking on Disrupt, and something's got to change because these attacks have looked atrociously bad.
You know what, Jesse? I'm an optimist, and even though it might make my hair fall out, I'm gonna still be an optimist because I swear I feel like Disrupt Gaming, they're gonna get it one day, and when that day comes, it's gonna be a great day for the NAL.
Hope so.
Yes, but
I hope
these
so.
2 teams are just about ready. They're almost there. But before we jump into the game, we finally know what the maps are gonna be. Jesse, this is your domain, man. You're living in it. We're watching. What's going on?
Okay, well, we've already gotten our taste of Chalet. Maybe we'll double... No, we're not going to double dip. Disrupt getting that off the board right away. Villa not going to be chosen either. Coastline and Oregon, the next 2 to go. I think these bans make sense. Clubhouse Disrupt almost went to Clubhouse 3 weeks in a row, but that's not where we end up. It's going to be Consulate Oxygen. This is the only map that they were able to win at both majors last year. It's a staple map for OXG. They're very known to be strong on this map. But for Disrupt Gaming, from Stage 2 until the start of the 2021 season, Disrupt banned Consulate in every official game except for the best of 5 against Space Station where they couldn't. However, they did win that map 8-6. And as far as I'm aware, they were playing into the Pro-Am as well. So recently they've gotten better at it, but this was a permaban for Disrupt for a long time. And so assuming that they were able to hide some strats on in the Pro-Am
against Oxygen, Jesse?
I mean, it's tough, but maybe they got something up their sleeve. I'm just glad it's not Clubhouse again, to be perfectly honest.
All right, so what were on you, Jesse? Predictions. Do you think that this map pick is going to work out for Disrupt? Or do you think Oxygen is going to do what's expected?
I hope we see some fun stuff from Disrupt. I want to see this team get better, but right now, Oxygen look far and away like the better team. I can't imagine Disrupt get more than a couple rounds here. I gotta go OXG.
And Jacob, as I throw it to you, the one thing that just ran through my mind was the iconic clutch on Consulate during his rookie stage. Do you think that him and this team of Disrupt Gaming are gonna pull through against Oxygen, man?
No, because I think that the Sonics team that Iconic was on back in stages 1 and 2 is was a much better team than this current Disrupt team is. So I don't really think that what we've seen from Disrupt over these past 2 weeks is really enough to kind of sway me on this. It's literally the #1 team in North America against the #8 team in North America, and OXG look like they are just cleaning house at every opportunity. I hate to agree with Jesse again, but it's going to be OXG on Consulate.
Production, I mean, it's a three-peat. It's Oxygen. I feel like when you take a look at both of these teams on paper, it just makes sense, baby. Oxygen is a team that's on top. They're consistently getting better. They're fixing their weak points, and the rookies are showing off. They're showing their butts, right? Take a look at Disrupt, though. There's holes in their armor, chinks in their armor. There's holes in their strategy. This team, when it comes to attack, they're doing something different from these other teams, and it's not working. They have to get better, and they have to stay alive. I believe in them. I just don't believe that time is now. But, ladies and gentlemen, Jacob. So, when it comes to this matchup, if there's an X factor for the upset to happen, Disrupt Gaming to get the big win that they know they can get, what would you like to see? What has to happen?
Well, I would like to see them kind of be better at attacking, I think, overall. Something that definitely was a problem for them on both of their clubhouse losses was the fact that on defense, they seemed like they had it down pretty well, but on attack, it was a much different story. They couldn't roam clear effectively. It took them a long time to actually get going. The thing that I do want to see from them is much better attacks. We're on Consulate, so there should be an expectation for attacks to just be better and more structured overall anyway because of the map that we're heading to. But at the other end of that coin, I do want to see Iconic show up. I want to see Mark show up a little bit more, and I want them maybe even in tandem with Shuttler J90 to keep on showing up. Retro is going to keep on playing support. He doesn't have the same expectation of high level stats on his end that these other guys do, but right now Iconic stats are in the dirt and he needs a pick-me-up. If he does well, then DG does well, but they need to work together to make it happen.
I had a conversation with Red Q from Disrupt, and we spoke about the prospect of Iconic and J90 finally teaming up. It's happened now, but we need that chemistry to be here because Disrupt Gaming, they need this win to build up that momentum, that motivation to be better this season. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to see if that upset can happen. It's going to be Disrupt Gaming versus the top team in the NAL. It's going to be Oxygen. Now, Blue and Stokes, take it away.
Thank you very much, Veli. It is our pleasure to be here once again for another Playday of the NAL. Stokes, how you feeling about this matchup as we get ready to jump into things here? OXG going up against Disrupt.
Oh man, I am so excited for this one, John. As you said, Oxygen up against Disrupt, but I think that the tail of the tape here is going to be what can Disrupt produce? As you guys heard our analysts talking about, Oxygen, pretty good track record when it comes to this map, and this new team looking so strong coming into this one. This is a proving grounds for Disrupt. Did you learn from these previous 2 weeks where you got decimated inside of those maps? That's what we're here to see today, and I'm extremely excited to see how it goes.
Certainly the big question on the table. We've got another one for you guys, though, in our community poll for this match. Be sure to go head over to our socials, specifically our Twitter at R6esportsNA. Submit your vote while the analysts talk about the results a little bit later on. We want to know who is going to get their team into the bomb site. Will it be Mark from Disrupt or Yaga from OXG? Feel free to submit your vote over on our Twitter. Like I said, we'll talk about it a bit later on. But I think this is very much a question as we get into it about the individuals, not even necessarily about the two individuals that we just mentioned. A good point being made there, I believe, by Jacob on the analysis desk, that we haven't really seen some of the Disrupt members show up to these matches, most notably Iconic there, who hasn't been able to have the greatest performance out of the first two matches. J90 had a promising first week in his initial game, but last week we saw him kind of be a bit of a no-show in the stats department as well. So I think that both of those players being out of the mix is really going to take away from the potential aggressive fragging power that would come out of Disrupt. I think we'll need to see at least one of those two players really step it up big time coming into this match this week. Otherwise, we could be looking at Oxygen potentially having a very one-sided match here.
Yeah, absolutely. Disrupt came out swinging inside of that Dark Zero Pro-Am where they were able to take the entire tournament and shock a lot of people. but it seems as the time goes on, that tournament means less and less in the grand scheme of things, as Disrupt has run into a lot of treacherous water, and they're back in it yet again today up against Oxygen. But as you were saying, it really is this entry point for Disrupt where they just seemingly don't have the synergy right now to make things work. Iconic having quite the poor start to this season, although his last year was so fantastic.
Stepping away from him, though, and talking more about this squad, they did have themselves good results, specifically on consoles. We're now getting ready to hop into the match, folks. If you look back at the Pro-Am, the problem is those results always seem to have a little bit of an asterisk on them, with it specifically being a Pro-Am and some team seriousness in that tournament being relatively up for debate. So we'll have to see. Disrupt did manage to take a win versus Dark Zero in that very tournament. So we'll see if those results translate at all here against OXG. Getting into the ban phase now. Disrupt has the first and final bans. Oxygen has the 2 in the center.
Okay, well, first things first, Nomad off the board, and honestly, not a big shock when it comes to Consulate. Quite the nuisance Nomad can be when you are on that defense, so might as well get that removed. Oxygen will be handling our 2 middle bans, and they'll be able to dictate how this offense is going to go. What's the last utility piece missing from the puzzle? It's going to be Thatcher. Not a big surprise coming in here for our last offensive ban.
As Stoke said, the Nomad ban not being too surprising either. Usually a great flank watch for covering off, especially when you are doing things like clearing out the second floor or the basement to make sure the staircases aren't used by the defenders as a route to stab the clearing attackers in the back. Mira is an incredibly prevalent operator, not just here on Consulate, but across many of our maps, and especially so here on Consulate, so she'll be removed as our initial defender. And finally, Disrupt going immediately for the Valkyrie ban. A lot of windows on this map, a lot of potential for her to cause trouble, and just in general, a very annoying operator to deal with in general, so she's been getting banned out quite a bit recently.
Yeah, if all of us would have sat at home today and wrote up a ban selection for Consulate, I'm pretty sure 80% of us would have chose this lineup. Like, this is as mainstay for Consulate as it possibly gets. But that could be what Disrupt needs, something that's just very basic, something they're used to get them back into this stage. I mean, stage 1 just has not been strong for them so far, and it all starts right now on this cafe defense. What are they able to produce? Well, first things first, we're already jumping off of an operator. Get rid of that Kaid. We're going on over to the Aruni for this garage defense.
We'll see how that potentially changes things up, as that is going to lead into more projectile disruption. Normally see the Wamai coming in to accompany the Jaeger, but we will see the Aruni have a different set of benefits that certainly are going to be useful, especially for fending off garage specifically, as we're now seeing those getting applied. No reinforcements coming in on the wall just yet, but I imagine they would be there over the next few minutes. But either way, this is already a very interesting setup being used by Retro to use the Surya Gates to act as the main line of defense against utility compared to what the normal means are in this situation.
It seems like they're still going to have some supporting ADSs here, but they also have some angles rolling through upstairs, so we'll have to see once we get the full brunt of what Disrupt's plans are with the map as of round 1. I mean, with the utility in play, this is really looking like it's going to be difficult for Oxygen to make an attempt at the big garage. They didn't bring a Maverick here. Technically speaking, they only have 1 hard breacher right now. Not even technically speaking. Laxon didn't bring secondary hard breach, so Foxy is indeed the only hard breacher here. And with no Thatcher, they're going to have to go for this top clear and try and get some presence. Now, the thing is that Disrupt truly don't have anything to stop that from happening. So really, this is now just an open book as to which way this could go. Disrupt on the roam game now to try and delay some time, and this seems to be the starting point here.
Going to be a lot of messing around with the upstairs hold, especially from Mark, who was really one of the more lethal people on Disrupt looking at the previous 2 weeks of game. So it's good to see him still in a comfortable role to be able to get aggressive, potentially be the first player to get in the way of Oxygen as well here, since he seems to have the best stats coming into this matchup looking at the previous 2 weeks. Keep in mind, though, this is Siege. That can change very drastically on a week-to-week basis here, especially depending on things like maps and whatnot. So we'll be following that, along with the results from some of the other highlight players here on Disrupt, very, very closely as this match continues to go on, as I know we made a very big point about it in the pregame. Either way, though, a minute gone from the clock. Oxygen, while they have gained some semblance of upstairs control, they have not cleared out the roaming party just yet. I believe they're about to reach that phase. Now, though, as Retro will be pushed out, he was to be the last player holding upstairs. Oxygen 1 step down. Still a lot to go, though, but the good news is they've still got over half a round remaining.
Yeah, fantastic pace by both of these squads right now. It's just a regular round of Rainbow at this point in time. Minute and 30. Oxygen has the map cleared down to the base level now, but they still have to worry about possible rotations that Disrupt could have. Already worried about someone on Spiral, but no damage going to go off from that frag grenade. Just wasted utility instead. Oxygen now needing to get some pressure onto the physical site, needing these walls open, and that's going to be their main game plan for right now, as they now have control of Piano. That's where Kino's going to step up to the plate. They'll start using this sledgehammer to break up the flooring and start looking around for other utility pieces they can possibly get rid of. Oxygen now seemingly aware of what's going on downstairs, and actually you can see that Disrupt didn't even reinforce the garage, actually. It's just straight up laser gates instead. They've moved those reinforcements around the map, more than likely what we saw strung along the top floor.
Who needs metal when you've got lasers, right? You know, that's a much more efficient solution, in my opinion. But either way, that is going to be... I was part of what I was wondering when we saw those Surya gates go down, was whether we were going to see the reinforcements to accompany, as it does change up the overall way that this will be played a little bit. Problem is, though, with the top-down control, I've got a feeling that Oxygen will still be able to easily work their way around these gates, as well as all the other defenses spread out around the site. In fact, look at this. Foxay already going for a plant attempt as OXG continue to clear out any of the remaining defenders. J9O throwing out as many of his gas charges as he can, and it opens up a great opportunity for Iconic and J9O to find some serious impact here. The problem is, though, Diffuser still did go down, so we're in a post-plant situation. OXG, for the most part, can hold up top here and play out the rest of the round from this position. They've got a top-down angle going on the Diffuser itself. Laxing holds all of the rotate from Yellow, and now all Vert has to do is shut down the counter Diffuse. Shuttle trying his best to sneak it in, but a nade's going to drop right on top of his face, and unfortunately, he's just going to eat that, as we'll see Oxygen take swift control over round number 1.
Yeah, Shuttle quite hopeful that that frag grenade was not going to kill him, sitting right next to the case. But yeah, that's all she wrote for that round. But round 1 going handedly to Oxygen. Now, some crazy stuff happening here with these laser gates on Garage, and that's something that we were, or at least I was focused on with the Thatcher band coming in and how that was going to have an effect downstairs. But Disrupt not really truly contesting that wall when it comes to, you know, utility, all except for those laser gates. But the funniest thing about that round is Disrupt set up that way for their roam game that didn't have any effect on the overall round. Oxygen pushed them back in perfect time, still had a minute and a half, actually over that, in fact, to work the rest of the map, get things open. And as funny as it is, Oxygen still opened the garage the same way they were going to in the first place. They got piano control first, and then Foxy used Selma charges to get the garage open. So Disrupt, what are you doing? I mean, that like the thing that was set up in order for this strategy to work had zero effect on Oxygen's game plan throughout that entire round, and that's exactly why we're going to see them adjusting sites right now.
Certainly an interesting take on the usual basement defense, however, so hopefully we get to see a better attempt at that from Disrupt, either in a future round here or in a future match there, as unfortunately the roam game is just not able to have the impact to stunt Oxygen enough where they would be able to hold off with primarily just those Surya gates in the late rounds. So we're going to see if they can put a greater emphasis on their roam game and have greater success upon their roam game by moving to the split site for their second round, as Stokes had just mentioned here. Still going to be a lot of that upstairs presence. You will normally see the attackers go for admin control, which is the room on the far east side of the second floor here, in order to start clearing out the map. But as you can see, Disrupt will very much be in the way of that, with Mark and potentially one other member of the team looking to directly contest any attempts to take control. Oxygen may not be going for this usual starting point, however. We do have players spread out across the map, but it does look like at least Foxay is going to start lining up by the Visa door, while a few other players navigate their way up to the roof for better preview over what the second floor looks like.
Disrupt with a great game plan coming into round 2 when it comes to the lineup as well. A lot of this utility countering out what Oxygen, just operator-wise, are going for, specifically in Vertical's line of play. Going to be difficult to try and find any information for this offensive squad, and since Disrupt are also backing this up with J9 on the Vigil, as well as the Pulse play by Shuttle, this could honestly be a very, very strong defensive round, and it's going to start off extremely well. Iconic with a Nitro cell right under CEO takes down Yogg for our first blood.
Sekino looking for more here, trying to hunt for revenge for OXG, but not going to be able to find anything on that console repel. Vertical more than likely going to be joining the rest of his teammates in a moment here as well. Foxay still very much focused on the drone. Oh no, look at this potential lineup here being thrown out by Shuttle. They'll spot the drone, however, that was spotting him, so probably not going to see much potential for a play there anymore. But something was boiling for a moment. Unfortunately, Oxygen got ahead of themselves, thought they were a bit sneakier than they actually were. First half of the round gone. Oxygen certainly making far less progress within this second round compared to where they were back on round number 1. The roam game upstairs, as you folks can see, for Disrupt, still very much a problem. Although Kino with just the chuck away nade against J9O, casually dealing with a player above him there, and more importantly, trading us down into a 4v4, making up for the earlier loss of one of Oxygen's teammates.
What a frag grenade from him, and he's opened the door for Oxygen to get some pressure onto site. Vertical play not going to be as strong from Disrupt, and they've already set up for the plant all across the board as well. Nitrocell out from Shuttle. Can it get the frag? It can. Going to need to get picked back up and replanted for the offense as Disrupt start to put Oxygen in a very worrisome position. This timer really hindering them when it comes down to it, and since Kino now with some big frags but finally gets taken down by Mark. Oh no, it seems as though the plant's been stopped though by Shuttle, trying to fight back, but no, Laxing not with a chance either. Disrupt really quick to the trigger to wrap up round 2, especially after Oxygen had such strong pressure to try and attempt that plant.
Great comeback there from the Disrupt roster to definitively make their stance in round number 2 and show us they are here to fight indeed today. Really great stuff with making sure the roam presence remained a problem up until that unfortunate nade kill, of course, in the late round. And that combined with the pressure from players like Pulse, who were hiding out beneath the hatch by Visa doorway, made it a very difficult task for OXG to get even the smallest amount of map control, leading them to the scrambled attempt at a plant we saw in the late round. And even after that, there was still an additional Nitro cell available for use after Foxay died too. So overall, Disrupt having very solid control over that round, never really in a risky position for losing it, as far as I could tell.
No, not at all. That round was going to be difficult for Oxygen from the jump, and it was, obviously there was a lot of aspects to it, mostly coming down to information as well as just the amount of artillery that Disrupt had in the end. Like, the pulse play was just so strong right there, and it was really difficult to try and get that monkey off their back. But now Oxygen are faced with this very next round. But finishing up the point that I was talking about with Disrupt, it seems as though for Oxygen, when they're limited inside of what they can get for information early on, Disrupt have an opportunity to try and counter out a lot of things. Oxygen's lineup really didn't favor that offense all that much. When you see offenses go that way on the split site, you're usually looking for someone to try and disrupt the process of the pulse down low, and that's not what happened for Oxygen. They tried to slap a case down instead, and that's where the pulse comes into play. He's extremely dangerous in that position, able to clean up that bomb plant and put Oxygen not even on their back feet, just right on their butt. They really didn't have an opportunity from that moment on because Disrupt just battled back so heavily inside of the fragging department immediately after.
Alright guys, well once again, you can see here OXG focusing big time on trying to get their clear going, specifically in admin, and in fact, a little bit of damage I believe going to be done to Mark as a result of that clear. Could have been coming from another angle as well. Either way, he's going to lose about half of his health and have to fall back from the aggressive position that he was trying to take against this push that was going to the inside of admin. Aside from that, OXG is going to get full control. We'll see Kino begin to work on the balcony near the upstairs room just above the site as well here going into Projector. But Mark still going to be causing problems from the inside of Projector itself. He's got this deployable shield to assist him and trying to outlast. The utility from Oxygen could potentially take care of that, though, if they want to move Yaga in position to do so. So we'll have to watch out. The good news, however, is that also has J9 here to support Mark in the event pressure gets a little bit too much for him to deal with. So possibilities for trade and just continued hold of this situation still well and alive for Disrupt. Once again, about that halfway point into the round here.
I'm actually quite just surprised that Disrupt doesn't have a Wamai in this position upstairs for Connector, but it's going to be J9 with the smoke instead, and it doesn't mean that he can't get it done. Those Toxic Babes can delay for such a long time, but he's not going to have a deployable shield around him currently to play with. It's actually positioned for Mark inside of Projector. Very risque play here from DG. Nitrocell goes wide for Mark on Suicide Balcony, but that doesn't really mean too much. They're still delaying so much time. Mute Jammer now catching the Selma charge, trying to move Mark out from Bosco, and Disrupt stunting Oxygen right now. They're stuck on timer, and they have to find a solution extremely quickly. They still have some utility pieces that they could possibly use to get rid of these, but what's that worth if you can't possibly get anything over? Gonna burn the Selma charges over the wall into Projector for a possible frag grenade to come through, but instead Kino just kills Mark behind the shield, now having control here. But with only 45 seconds remaining, do they have an opportunity for this plant?
interesting curveball there to use the Selmas to burn the ADS, but when you think about it, they're really not going to need those Selmas for anything else, considering they can no longer deal with the projector wall because of the mute jammer sitting on the other side. As you can see, this primary push definitely does not need access to hard breach, so using those there is not necessarily a complete waste. Good little adjustment there in order to get past the issue that had been plaguing them for a solid minute or so. Problem, though, is they now still have to pay the consequences of not getting that kill more quickly. They have basically zero time to make this execute happen, but they may be getting it done anyway. Vertical with a nice find. The problem is Iconic still on the other side of the smoke, looking to cause issues. He's going to find a big pick against Yaga. That's the interrupt on the plant as well here. Shuttle finding a big pickup, but at the same time, Kino there for the trade. Does he have time to get the diffuser down? Unfortunately not. And even worse, Iconic has a safe corner to hide in to avoid getting fragged. Disrupt will take round number 3 on the timer.
And that is why the clock is so important when it comes down to it. Disrupt able to waste so much time upstairs. Oxygen just really not having a solution until too late when it came down to that execute. Just trying to deal with Mark a little bit too long up there, and it really wasn't even that. They had the right tools to be able to get rid of that positioning, but it was, again, just a little bit too late on that time. Once they get downstairs and start trying to get this bomb planted, Disrupt are prepared for that. They can see the info coming through from them, from the lobby players. They know where this execute's going to go off. Oxygen try to rush things down through the smoke. They didn't even have control of grass, which is that area at the bottom of Spiral, right outside the lobby. I mean, there's a lot of missed boxes for Oxygen on that execute. That was simply like a last-ditch effort to try and get a case down and possibly win the round. These defenses so far from Disrupt have actually looked quite solid for these last 2 rounds.
We're going to see a slight adjustment for those of you who haven't already picked up on it here as we see Disrupt move back to basement. Now they're going to reinforce the walls this time, so we'll see if that makes a pretty major
I already
difference.
like it more.
I believe it will. So they've also got Cade in the mix on top of the Surya gates too, so those are going to be like triple reinforced walls with the amount of stuff that's sitting on them right now.
Wall stocks after this, just
yeah. We're just putting up like you might as well just put a second reinforced wall there at that point.
Exactly. Well, I mean, like, the Surya gates have come into the meta at such a weird time as well. Like, we're starting to see people completely go around using Jaeger Momai and put her into play, just like inside of this lineup and things like that, because they're not too worried about throwable utility. They'd much rather bring stuff that's just very annoying overall for the offense to deal with, like things like Kaid, Malusi, Maestro, stuff like that, where they have to use explosives. But you can always just reset those gates as well. Like, yeah, they're going to burn them, and it takes a little bit, a little bit of time. But if you get the wall open and they burn it early on and the round continues, you're going to continue to not only get, very important utility, but also if it gets to a certain point, they're no longer going to be able to rotate through the hole that they've made, which is a huge thing that I don't think a lot of people think about when they think about these laser gates. Is late round, when you have no utility on the offense, that's a rotate that you've now made that you had access to earlier in the round that you no longer have access to. If you go through it, you take like almost half your health and damage. It's crazy.
We'll see if Oxygen are going to be able to work their way past it now that the wall's a little bit more well defended. You can already see Oxygen trying to move in and take control away. The room game from Disrupt seemingly being dealt with here, but not so much the case. Retro, who's been messing around by console and now the front lobby, continuing to cause issues and more importantly, cause delay against the overall Oxygen take as they can't fully focus on their basement attack until they know for sure that the rest of the first and second floor have been cleared out, and that can oftentimes be a difficult thing here in Siege. Got the piano hold as well as now a second player. Mark is also roaming around on the first floor, trying to stop this play from OXG. Kino, I think, kind of hyper-focused on dealing with Mark right now, but losing the plot, unable to really get a solid location as to where he is, so he will continue to be a ever-threatening presence from the inside of piano here until someone from Oxygen will be able to spot him out, more importantly, deal with him. This could actually be very dangerous. The drone, as far as I can tell, has not seen him. Oh, no, it didn't. That's just a free one right there for Mark. Shuts down Kino. The failure to check the corner costs Oxygen in a very big way. So far, an untraded kill. He's going to go for 2 here as well. Yaga will dodge the Nitro in the good news. And in even better news, Yaga will confirm the trade.
That right there is exactly why you don't have an Ash drone for you. That's just very poor, but it doesn't really matter. Yog's able to get the refrag, and that's truly what does matter. 4v4 situation now in the last 30 seconds here. Oxygen attempting to look for an execute opportunity here, but DG have done such a bang-up job of delaying this timer. Foxay going for a last-ditch effort running down the back of Spiral, but he's been caught off by Retro here. Shuttle going to pick one up on the other side of the map. The case now down inside of Spiral, and it's all left up to Vertical, who sits inside of the circle hatch, just waiting to drop and more than likely into the open arms of some Disrupt members. But he'll just play for Timer instead and keep that stat line looking, well, as good as it possibly can, given the circumstances.
Gives them those couple extra seconds to just talk things over that transpired very quickly as well. So better do that than to waste those couple of extra seconds, which could have been used for the team. And as Stoke said, not really a point to him trying to go for the clutch. He knew he was a dead player if he dropped down that hatch. So not really anything that player can do in that scenario. Either way, though, Disrupt can take a solid lead so far in this half. Their roaming capability constantly running down the clock, not even finding major impact, save for a kill or two that happens to transpire in the early round. But what Disrupt are usually taking away from OXG is all of the time they need to actually execute on the site, leading to these forced engagements where OXG just has to try and push the site because they purely have no time remaining to gather intel or set things up that they would normally want to use to make their own attack cleaner.
Yeah, and the other thing is like Oxygen keeps running into the same issue so far throughout on these offenses, where they get to a certain point inside of their clear, and then they just simply stop. It's like they don't have the intel yet on what Disrupt is doing. They go to look for it, but whether it be through misdroning or what have you, they're not able to get the intel to propel them forward through the round. So what does that leave them into? Well, they go down to that, almost, minute 10 mark with not making a move just yet, waiting for Disrupt to actually try and circle the map or make some rotations or make a mistake somewhere where they can get a pick. It just doesn't come. And then when they actually attempt to push into that mid floor, they're making mistakes and they're losing people early on. That's exactly what happens inside of that last round. So for now, for Oxygen, it's trying to lean into this utility game, try and get as much information as you possibly can, and work around what Disrupt are doing with the map. Because again, we're back on that split site where they gave him such a big problem inside of the info department the last time. I mean, once again, look at this lineup and what Disrupt are going to do to Oxygen. In come the early picks as Disrupt continue this aggression, taking down Foxay.
Mark continuing to find impact here in the early round as he strikes yet again, knocking out Foxay this time. They're taking out any of the hard breach utility that Oxygen would have had access to in this round. They still do have a can opener sitting on Vertical. That's the secondary hard breach utility. But for those of you who are aware of what that does, you'll know that that's not going to open a pretty big hole. So they're very, very limited with what they can actually open up now as a result of that depth. Trying to trade it out, but so far no results in being able to find Mark or any of the other players on Disrupt committed to the roam game. But what they do have is Zero, and that's another operator that's recently worked his way into the competitive lineup here. Offers a lot of capability to set up those tiny Argus cameras that you just saw one of towards Spiral, oftentimes used to establish good flank watch cameras to be able to not get caught by the very thing that Oxygen was tripped up by at the beginning of this round.
Yeah, apparently we're calling them Sam cams now, which I'm totally down with, but as with the rest of my life, I'm totally scarred by anyone named Sam because it just happens way too often, and now I'm just going to continually think it's me, and it's not me. It's totally not. But Sam cams nonetheless for Vertical here, and we'll see what they can do with the rest of this time remaining. J9 with a really nice frag, able to clean up one, and they know where he is. He's on the single panel inside of the office, but Kino not able to find him, sees another one, but they're not aware of Kino's positioning. He's moved up, but now this man's a mystery as well. He's gone, some shots go out, but what is happening right now inside of this round? Mark is still alive. He gets out, he rotates back into console office and leaves the area. He just escapes. That's not supposed to happen. Oxygen can't find the frag that was practically a freebie upstairs. And with 45 seconds remaining, they need to get case control and plant this diffuser. What is going on with this offense?
The roam game is quite literally running circles around Oxygen right now and is leading to a very, very dangerous late round constant for OXG. J9O finally going to get caught here just by the plant.
It's out in the yard still, Blue. It's out where Foxay died, and they're having to flood the basement.
They're going to work their way in here. The thing is, they're getting enough kills to potentially win the round. This would be the craziest round if they win it. So Iconic going to be left alone here now. He's got the 1v3. He's got good intel to play off of 2. There's the second. Does he see the third pushing him? No, he doesn't, but still going to get a second chance to try and refrag here. 5 seconds left, and he does it with the sidearm as Iconic clutches the 1v3 and takes the round for Disrupt.
What is going on in North America this season, man? I cannot handle this. Oh my goodness. Disrupt. Stand up. Iconic. What a play when he was needed the most. The strat overall working so well for Disrupt, especially in the early game with the aggression, able to shut down Oxygen and put the case all the way outside to where apparently Oxygen forgot that it even existed. I mean, that's the objective of the game, guys. You might want to go grab that thing, but it almost didn't matter when it came down to it. Oxygen flood the site, get the frags, get it down to a 3 versus 1, but then Iconic wins that. Like, this isn't the way that things are supposed to go, but this is what's happening. And Disrupt are now up 4-1 when we didn't even think they had a snowball's chance in hell inside of this map.
Bit of a Looney Tunes round there from Oxygen and Disrupt, if we're being completely honest about it. I think that's why we see... What's up?
I said flabbergasted.
Yeah. I think that's why we see the pause coming in now from the Oxygen roster, as they very much need to get control over this situation, specifically in the early game. Last round was a bit of an over-exaggeration of the issues that have been plaguing them throughout the rest of the map, but the core issue is still that early round. They're unable to lock down this roam presence and either push it back into the site or kill the players trying to utilize it in an appropriate amount of time, leading to just consistent mad scrambles for the site in the final 30 to 40 seconds of each round.
All right, well, let's jump back into this, see if the timeout served Oxygen well. It's not going to actually propel us into any changes here, though. Oxygen not adopting anyone new into the lineup. And honestly, it's seeming like things are just going to go forward as planned. A couple of big problems right now for Oxygen is mostly just fragging. I mean, if we look over at the Oxygen side of things right now, Fox A, 0 frags, Yogg 2, and Laxing 2. Kino and Vertical 7 and 5, but I mean, looking over at Disrupt, it's a much more equal scoreboard, and that's the biggest issue right now. Is Oxygen are very top heavy. They're not finding too much value out of a couple of these players, and the biggest thing right now is, like, for instance, Laxing has been quiet since he got his 2 frags on yellow, clutching up, I believe, round 1. So, like, it's things like that where we're just not seeing a lot of the players actually pop off right now for OXG, where across the board every Disrupt member is, you're just seeing their name inside of that kill feed or and have some other influence inside of the round. So until Oxygen's able to actually get this team play back, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. Hopefully these defenses start off strong for them.
Oxygen themselves are more than likely hoping that they will be able to leverage at least a second round within this half, as they'll be setting Disrupt up for a massive lead going into the second half, if not here, at a potential 5-1 scoreline. Oxygen quickly moving in. They'll take admin control uncontested, but that doesn't mean that the second floor is completely theirs. For those of you who caught it, you'll see that there's still at least 2 members of Disrupt holding the back lane closer to console, as well as the projector connector here. We can see Mark and one other player maintaining that position, which has already plagued Oxygen in a previous round and wasted a solid minute or 2 off the clock before they could finally deal with it. I believe it was the same duo as well. Hopefully the results from the previous round speed things up, as they have already handled this specific position one time. Just need to do it again here, as they're trying to deal with the ADSs and other pieces of utilities sitting inside a projector now, so they can start pushing Mark out.
Oh, this is so strong. What a play from Oxygen. An alley-oop, if you will, with the camera work from Vertical. Caught that man in 4K. And now, top control starting to go in Oxygen's favor, but J9 stands in between them and a good time. He's got a lot of smoking buddies with him as well. You could possibly use to lock down these angles. Could possibly have a freebie here, but no, the shots go wide, not able to take down the player on Suicide Balcony, but he'll still stand tall. He doesn't want to give up any square inch of space up here, and this has held Oxygen back. They're still over inside of Short Desk, trying to process what the next move's going to be. They've gotten this far, and they've got some control inside of Projector, but now they need to start smoking off these angles. J9 not alone any longer. Retro inside of the bathroom with a nice cross angle, as Oxygen still haven't moved forward. Really leaning on these drones. Want this intel, and it looks like an audible might be being called. Laxing progressing down Spiral right now with an opportunity here as Fox starts the plant, but the cross isn't being held, and he's been taken down by Iconic.
Comms right there. Unfortunately, Laxing and Vertical will come back into the fray now to try and trade their lost planter out. That is going to leave Shuttle alone as well. So Oxygen still coming out on top of that situation despite the lost plant opportunity there at the beginning. Shuttle now tries to rotate, but Vertical is too quick on the trade, shutting him down before he can make serious impact against the plant, and finally giving OXG a second round at the end of the half.
What a round from Oxygen right there. They didn't even take control of Projector actually, truly, until the very, very end of that round. That was really, really well done from them. Instead, they go for an attack where they actually, like we were talking about, called an audible, go towards Spiral, push Laxing down that to hold the cross for Foxay to try and get a plant, trying to prevent anyone coming from Antechamber. Obviously, that did end up happening, but what that forced was a reaction from Disrupt, who actually drop out of sight, start taking gunfights, trying to slow down Oxygen and trying to keep the case in a very awkward position for them. But they lose every single engagement that they get into, and Oxygen are able to translate that into a round win. Some really, really strong stuff given what was happening inside of that round with the positioning of those two Disrupt members upstairs.
Well, the sides will switch. OXG now gets to take on the defense, and we can already see a different take on the basement defense, so much more meta inscribed take, if you will. It's like a really advanced way to say it. I didn't need that. But either way, basically no Surya gates. That's the point I'm trying to make. Take it away, Stoked.
Take it away. I mean, I was about to go open my door so air could come in the room. I thought you were talking for a second. Anyways, I mean, yeah. I mean, no laser gates, or they're back to basics. But I mean, the thing is here is like they're bringing in the Vigil, which we didn't see inside of their lineup the last time, either Oxygen or more on an aggressive front for this downstairs defense. Whereas what we saw from Disrupt was just pure utility. That's what we saw from them. But looking at what Oxygen are doing with the map overall and how they're playing it, you can see exactly why they're bringing the utility that they have right now. They want to try and get rid of this drone game for Disrupt, make things rough for them, and allow the playmaking ability of these Oxygen members to stand for them. I mean, the biggest thing here for Oxygen and what they've always stood for was their ability to make opportunities out of almost nothingness. If they have the chance to have no intel on them, they're probably one of the scariest teams when it comes down to just pure mechanical skills and gunfights. So if they're able to do that, like right now with a huge knockdown onto Retro, but does have strong positioning, more than likely a pickup here, and that's a very, very scary topic right now for Disrupt.
Caught through the window as well here. We are going to... Oh, that's a great impact as well. Nearly caught a player from Disrupt on timing there, looking at Vert's POV, but misalign it just slightly. So, well, it does give him good purview over the window upstairs. Not going to be able to catch anyone with it at this point in time. OXG continuing to delay down the time here in the meanwhile. Here as we go past the first minute of the round. Retro has been retrieved and brought back up, meaning that the hard breach capability is still alive. And that was a very important factor, getting Retro back up, as they still need to open up the garage, as well as potentially some other angles that Retro would have been very much needed to accomplish, and would have caused a massive shift in the round strategy had he indeed gone down. OXG, though, still out for blood here, still looking for the refrag, and they're going to be able to get it there. Mark fully going down this time due to the exploits of Vert, who makes that run out from the yellow door to pick it up. The problem is, it's traded just as quickly by the man who was spited earlier. Retro now back in the fight, trades out Kino, brings us down to a 4v4.
Well, Disrupt with time, but not too much control here, at least when it comes to the mid-floor. Still have some Oxygen members moseying around. You have some yellow control as everything's reached a moot point, but oh, iconic with the pre-fire of a century. He takes down Foxay, who's just not having a great day. No matter what this guy does, it seems like he cannot get away from any of these members. Iconic gonna get rid of that Electro Claw so Retro can start wall control now, but it doesn't seem like it's gotten rid of. Actually, no, yes, it did. It got rid of the two left ones instead. Have that other Electro Claw more than likely inside of the random cabinets down there. But with 30 seconds remaining now, Disrupt need to actually get into the site, and this has been the biggest issue for both of these squads when it comes to the offense. Now, Disrupt presented this for the very first time. How are they going to act? They have great control of Piano as they continue to rip apart this flooring, but they still need to maintain a very safe plant. Problem is now, though, Retro has very minimal HP, and since he's going to be the planner, if he gets tagged up at all, he could possibly die. But Vertical's going to die instead. It's traded out all the way down till Disrupt win it out on frags instead of a plant. Yogg tries to throw himself into the fray and is immediately eviscerated for his efforts.
Waiting just a little bit too long there. Vertical trying to hope someone would just cross his path so we could easily find a pick and frag out from there. But unfortunately, his opponent spots him first, takes him down. and really seals the deal for that round on Disrupt. That's a dangerous win for them too, reopening the gap that Oxygen was trying to close by moving on to the defensive side. The first round still going in Disrupt's favor, leading to a 3-round lead in their favor, and obviously only 2 more needed to shut down the map.
Well, it seems that you and I are pretty good at writing movie scripts, by the way.
Why?
Because we've had our second 007 of the season. And it's,
oh, wait,
it's
really?
You and me once again.
Was
yeah.
that why you said call me James? I was trying to figure that out.
Fox 0-7. Double O Fox A. Double O Fox A. But, it happens, folks. It happens to the best of us. It happens to the worst of us. It is something, that's how esports are. Sometimes days suck. You can't make an excuse for them, but I mean, when you're getting pre-fired through random walls and stuff like that, man, it's just no longer fun. This is no longer a game. I need assistance. I'm sure that's what Fox A is thinking at this moment in time.
All right, well, Super and Fox A are going to come up with their secret agent plan over at CIA headquarters. In the meantime, we'll get back to this match, as we'll take a look once again at the fight between Oxygen and Disrupt here. I should have said MI6 headquarters. Man, I really messed that one up. Anyway.
I mean, I'm sure it'll happen again in the future. You and I are having a run of luck with this.
We're getting a whole agency going here by the end of the season, man. We're going to have like 6, 7 agents, man. We're going to have some crazy operations going on. We're going to start our own team, Rainbow.
Dude, we already got Super and Fox A. We're just adding to the list. Adding to the list. But now round 8, wide open with 20 seconds already off the board, and Disrupt looking to get aggressive on these west windows. Plenty of utility being thrown inside right now, but nothing that's going to be too explosive for them. Nothing like a Ying or something like that, or something could go crazy quick. But instead, they're going to just get great positioning on a possible yellow take coming through for them. Now, the real question here is, where is Retro going to slot in on this Thermite? With a site such as this, he really isn't of use when it comes to what utility he has to offer, so more than likely going to be on a long angle or something along those lines.
Vert looking for a run-out opportunity. He's going to find it, but unfortunately won't find any opponents from the Disrupt roster upon executing said run-out. So just going to quickly move back inside, take up a new position here, as no pressure working its way in from the Disrupt roster as of yet on an inside take. Vert actually nearly finding this run-out angle he's been looking for here. I believe it was Retro prone here, just safely behind the wall there, and more importantly, out of the view of Vertical, who had been looking to hunt this player down. Vertical no longer going to have that opportunity, at least not from the balcony. Once again, as he gets droned out there, has to reposition for a 3rd time.
All right, well, Disrupt. Great progress so far here as we reach the halfway mark, not giving up too much. 0 damage dealt to anybody, as you just continue to hear utility go off around the map, but it's mostly just been biting for map control. Disrupt, once again, have that top floor control. They'll attempt to transition this into a nice mid take here, but where is that going to come from? It looks like it's centralized around the piano area, where Retro's now poised on the windows to swing in at any moment's notice. They need the smokes to go off in the supporting angles, though, as Yaga's playing currently inside of the bathroom. But they have a lot of time to do this, as well as still some drones spinning around, able to find some information that could definitely lead to a successful round. But as things start to pop off, Mark finally works his way in, and it's a quick frag, taking down Yog. Retro's already swung in, and he's planting right beneath the windows. Mark continuing this aggression. He finds Fox A as well, who's now 008 on the rounds. Laxing and the rest of Oxygen looking to try and clutch things up. The EBR not assisting him when he needs it most, and Disrupt now put him in an unwinnable situation. Iconic finally gets taken down, but it's a 1 versus 4 for Lax. Finally shut down by Mark as Disrupt up 6-2.
And it just seems like things, unfortunately, aren't changing here. We're still early days in the overall attacking half, but once again, Disrupt able to take control of this one, sending us down very quickly to a match point, as you guys can now see here. Disrupt, only that one singular round needed to push them over the edge and take this, and we'll have to see if Oxygen on a split site hold are going to be able to finally find some success within this half and get them on the board, as they now need to win 4 rounds consecutively to trigger OT.
Yeah, this is really, really rough for Oxygen right now. It's like no matter what they try, Disrupt are just that much better in that instant. It's not by a crazy margin. They're not just stomping Oxygen into the ground, although the rounds do look like that, right? Like the round count does. But these rounds have actually been quite close at certain moments for Oxygen. They just simply can't get the rounds that they're supposed to win, like that 3v1 that we thought was going to go Oxygen's way. But instead, Iconic fights out. It's just stuff like that Oxygen weren't able to find inside of this, but they still have an opportunity here. The map's not done just yet. Granted, Oxygen are going to need 4 rounds in a row to make this happen, but they have an opportunity. It starts here on Split Site, as we're going to be having the Laser Gate carrying Rooney along for the ride once again.
Already seems to have made a consistent stance inside of the meta, as we're seeing her being used more and more, and that trend I imagine is probably going to continue given the overall usefulness of her capabilities. Where she'll exactly fit in and who she'll replace, we're still figuring out, but it seems like she's made a great accompaniment to operators like Jaeger, and it seems that this round completely can replace him under certain scenarios just because of the overall utility that she provides. So it's another good operator being added, another shift in the meta, and I'm sure we'll start to see more of those as the year goes on, and Flores and the others get added as well. But either way, let's take a deeper look at what's happening now that the players have been out on the board here for about 30 seconds or so. Disrupt looking to, once again, seal the deal here. Just one more attacking round is all they need. I do like the stance of playing this relatively passively at the beginning of the round. They know for a fact that Oxygen have been favoring really aggressive moves in this first minute or so. Things like runouts, as well as just the aggressive positioning that Disrupt themselves were using on the previous half. So they'll take a slow start here at the beginning of the round, similarly to how Oxygen did, and try to figure out some of what Oxygen are trying to pull in this roam game.
Yeah, Oxygen's name of the game when it comes to Consulate has always been aggression, and that's why we see Disrupt continuing to bring these nuisance of operators such as Lion and Jackal. It makes it very difficult for these OXG members to actually, roam around the map. Granted, they're still going to be able to get rid of quite a bit of info influencing utilities such as drones and other things, but what is that worth when it comes down to having to deal with that Lion, especially with positioning like this? Disrupt right forward upstairs right now, but oh no, one gets away inside of Flag Hall, but Mark's finally been down. Shuttle able to get one. J9 cleans up yet another. Kino trying to come up with the assist, but he's all of a sudden the only remaining member on this top floor.
Kino gonna wait this one out as well. Too much of a risk to try anything aggressive, consider they're down into a 3v5. It's just not worth taking the chance on potentially going down to a 2v5 and putting the team in an even worse position. So Oxygen just have to hope things start to drift their way here until they gain the capability to make aggressive plays again. Kino maybe reaching that point here where he's forced into it. Fox actually going to take the kill against Mark right out of his hands here. But hey, at least Fox is on the board now. The problem is Iconic will immediately trade out that frag, taking down yet another member of the OXG roster. Fox continues to make impact here as he finds a second, knocking out J9O and bringing us down to a 2v3 with 45 seconds left. This is going to turn into a very tense round. Laxing, just realizing that he was spotted out by that drone, is going to have to very quickly change up position, all while Fox still exposed and once again spotted by the drone on Spiral as well.
Well, 3v2 right now in favor of Disrupt, and Iconic's still alive. He's had a great map so far, 13, 1, and 5, but that doesn't matter now. They need him in this moment, but maybe it's not him. Maybe it's Shuttle instead. As Lax gets taken down, Fox in the 1 versus 3. He's gotten his first 2 frags inside of this round, and it's going to need to be the ace, but it doesn't matter. Iconic whisks those dreams away, and OXG lose their first map here in Stage 1.
So unfortunate for Fox at the very final moment, too. It didn't really look like that flash was prone to hit him, but at least he was able to have himself a semi-decent round with 2 frags getting onto the board, so he does not end at 0 and 9. We'll go 2 and 9 instead. But the real story is the dominance, it seems, from the Disrupt roster. Iconic very much needed, Iconic getting the very much needed MVP medal there at the end, and he definitely deserved it at 14 and 5. A massive step up for him that we were talking about in the pregame. We needed to see that, and he certainly exceeded at least my expectations for this match.
Absolutely. That looked like the Iconic of old, and that's what Disrupt needs for this squad. I mean, just what he was able to produce today alone. I mean, that's almost a 3.0 KD, and that doesn't even talk about the amount of entries that he was able to get for the squad. Disrupt overall is well able to shut down Oxygen on almost every single front. There was quite a few opportunities there for Oxygen like we talked about during the round, but every time that Disrupt was put into the clutch, they were able to find a way out of it. Amazing stuff from them today, and it looks like Oxygen are requiring going back to that drawing board. I'd really like to see how they try and take this loss and transition it into tomorrow. I mean, this is super weak, John. There's not very much time to try and bounce back.
Indeed, that'll be the case. So, more games coming up tomorrow, but more games coming up today as well, folks. Stick with us, and we'll be back in just a little bit to break down the third game and, of course, get us ready for our fourth and final game of the day.